The man slammed on his brakes when traffic stopped beneath a giant digital billboard in downtown Chicago. People weren't staring at an actress or a politician. They were looking up at a smiling woman holding a dented tin box filled with broken crayons. Across the screen glowed 5 simple words: broken crayons still color. Ethan Jordan felt the blood drain from his face. 7 years earlier, he had taken the house won custody of their children and told Olivia Jordan she would never matter to anyone. Now strangers were taking selfies beneath her portrait. A little girl whispered, "She saved my life." Ethan suddenly realized he had never truly known the woman he had destroyed. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. If stories about hope, second chances, and quiet courage speak to your heart, consider subscribing and joining us for more journeys like this. 7 years earlier, long before thousands of strangers paused beneath a giant billboard to admire Olivia Jordan's smile, her world fit inside a modest 2-story brick house on a quiet street in Columbus, Ohio. Every weekday began the same way. At precisely 6:10 a.m., the kitchen lights flickered on while the rest of the neighborhood still slept. Olivia tied her dark hair into a loose ponytail, slipped into a faded blue cardigan that smelled faintly of acrylic paint, and placed a small saucepan on the stove. Pancakes were too expensive for weekdays, but oatmeal sliced bananas and cinnamon were enough to make Noah and Lily smile. The old coffee maker hissed in the corner. The kitchen clock ticked steadily. Outside frost clung to the mailbox. Inside warmth lived in ordinary moments. 8-year-old Noah shuffled downstairs, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, Mom." "Morning, buddy. Your oatmeal is almost ready." 6-year-old Lily followed behind, dragging a stuffed rabbit whose ears had been sewn back together twice. "Can I wear the butterfly sweater today?" "If you're willing to wear your jacket over it," Lily sighed dramatically. "But butterflies don't like jackets." Olivia laughed. "They do when it's 32 degrees. Those tiny conversations never appeared in photographs, yet they became the memories she would later treasure most. By 7:15, everyone climbed into their aging silver Honda Civic. The heater worked only when the engine had been running for at least 10 minutes. Noah always wiped a circle on the fogged windshield with his sleeve. Lily counted red traffic lights as if they were part of a game. Olivia never complained. She simply turned the radio a little louder whenever the heater refused to cooperate. Across town, Ethan Jordan was already answering business calls through a wireless headset before sunrise. At 39, Ethan had become one of the fastest-rising regional sales directors for a commercial real estate company. He dressed sharply, spoke confidently, and believed every problem had a financial solution. His coworkers admired him. His clients trusted him. His calendar was booked 6 weeks in advance. He often reminded people that success belonged to those who refused to settle. In many ways, he had fallen in love with Olivia because she was different from everyone else. When they met in college, she painted murals while he studied business administration. She believed people mattered more than profits. He believed profits created opportunities for people. Back then, those differences had seemed charming. Years later, they became fault lines. Olivia parked outside Lincoln Elementary School at exactly 7:48 every morning. Children greeted her before she even reached the front entrance. "Miss Jordan, look what I drew." I remembered to bring my sketchbook. The hallway outside the art classroom smelled faintly of glue sticks, washable paint, and construction paper. To most teachers, room 114 looked cluttered. To Olivia, it looked alive. Every wall overflowed with colorful paintings. Handmade birds hung from the ceiling. Small sculptures filled wooden shelves. Near her desk sat an old dented tin box. Its faded blue paint had chipped away decades earlier. Inside were dozens of broken crayons. Some had no paper wrappers. Others were barely an inch long. Any visitor would have assumed they belonged in the trash. Instead, Olivia guarded them almost carefully. When one first grader frowned at the broken crayons and asked, "Why don't you buy new ones?" Olivia smiled. She opened the tin slowly. She picked up a snapped green crayon. "What color is this?" "Green." "Does it stop being green because it's broken?" The children shook their heads. She drew a perfect leaf, then another, then a tree. Finally, she looked around the room. "Broken crayon, still color?" The class repeated it together. "Broken crayon, still color?" It became more than a classroom saying. Whenever someone made a mistake, whenever a child felt embarrassed, whenever a painting ripped, Olivia simply smiled. "Broken crayon, still color." The words always seemed to calm frightened little hearts. After school ended, Olivia carefully collected every broken crayon that other classrooms planned to throw away. The janitor often laughed. "You really save everything." They still have stories left in them. So do you. She smiled without answering. Back home life looked comfortable from the outside. The mortgage was manageable. The children laughed often. Weekend dinners were family traditions, but tiny cracks had already begun spreading beneath the surface. One Thursday evening, Ethan arrived home nearly 2 hours later than expected. His expensive leather shoes clicked sharply across the hardwood floor. He loosened his tie. "Sorry, another client dinner." Olivia set his plate on the table. It stayed warm. He barely glanced at it. "What is it?" "Chicken casserole." "We've had this twice this month. It was on sale." He nodded absent-mindedly. "Right." No criticism, just a single word. Yet something inside Olivia quietly sank. After dinner, Noah ran into the kitchen carrying a drawing. "Dad, look. Mom helped me draw a lighthouse." Ethan smiled politely. "That's nice. It's for the school art fair." "Good job." Then his phone buzzed. He answered immediately. Noah lowered the drawing. The excitement faded from his face. Olivia noticed. She always noticed. Later that evening, after the children had gone to bed, Ethan stood in the living room reviewing quarterly reports on his tablet. Olivia folded laundry nearby. Without looking up, Ethan spoke. "You know, I met another executive today." "Oh." "His wife just became vice president at Nationwide." "That's wonderful." "They're making nearly $400,000 together." Olivia nodded. "I'm happy for them." He finally looked at her. "Have you ever thought about teaching at a private academy?" "I like public school." "They'd pay almost twice as much." "I know." "So why stay?" She folded Lily's tiny sweater carefully. "Because some children need good teachers more than wealthy schools do." Ethan sighed. "You always say things like that." "What do you mean? You think passion pays bills." She looked at him quietly. "I think people matter. I think security matters." Neither raised their voice. Neither insulted the other. Yet the silence afterward felt heavier than any argument. Over the next several months, conversations like that became increasingly common. Whenever Ethan celebrated another promotion, Olivia celebrated one of her students finally speaking after weeks of silence. Whenever Ethan admired luxury homes he hoped to sell, Olivia admired finger paintings drying on classroom shelves. Whenever Ethan measured life through numbers, Olivia measured it through faces. Neither realized how far apart they had drifted. One Saturday afternoon, the family visited a neighborhood park. Noah climbed the monkey bars. Lily chased pigeons. Olivia sat on a blanket sharpening old crayons with a tiny pocket knife. Ethan watched curiously. "You really carry that box everywhere?" She smiled. "You never know when a child might need to draw." He laughed softly. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "You treat broken crayons better than most people treat expensive things." She closed the lid gently. Because someone once treated me that way. What do you mean? When I was little, my second-grade teacher told me something I'd never forgotten. She looked toward Noah and Lily playing together. She said people who feel broken don't need to be replaced. Ethan waited. They need someone who reminds them they still have color left. For just a brief moment, Ethan looked at her without speaking. The wind rustled the autumn leaves. Children laughed across the playground. The little blue tin box rested quietly between them. Neither of them knew that one day it would become the symbol of a movement recognized across America. And neither of them imagined that before that day arrived, everything they had built together would fall apart. The first lie Ethan Jordan told during the divorce was so small that even he convinced himself it didn't matter. He told the court that Olivia's work schedule was unstable. Technically, she did spend extra hours after school at the community center helping children paint. She sometimes stayed until 6 in the evening cleaning brushes, organizing donated supplies, or comforting students whose parents arrived late. Ethan simply left out one important detail. She wasn't being irresponsible. She was volunteering. By the time his attorney reshaped that fact into legal language, it sounded very different. Mrs. Jordan frequently prioritizes extracurricular commitments over family responsibilities. Olivia stared at the document in disbelief. She read the sentence 3 times. It described a stranger. Outside the attorney's office, rain tapped softly against the windows. Olivia tightened her grip around the familiar blue tin box resting inside her canvas bag. She had brought it to school that morning, never imagining she would spend the afternoon reviewing divorce paperwork instead of preparing lesson plans. Her lawyer, Martin Ellis, sighed quietly. "I'm not going to lie to you, Olivia." She looked up. "They're building this case around financial stability." "I have a job." "I know. I've never missed paying anything." "I know. So why does everyone keep talking like I'm incapable of raising my own children?" Martin removed his glasses. "Because Ethan earns almost 4 times your salary. They're going to argue that he can provide a better future." Olivia lowered her eyes. "A bigger future isn't always a better one." Martin didn't answer. He had practiced family law for 22 years. He had heard that sentence before. Sometimes it won. More often it didn't. The weeks that followed became a slow unraveling of everything Olivia believed could never happen. Ethan moved into a downtown apartment before the divorce was finalized. He explained it to Noah and Lily as a temporary business arrangement. "Dad has meetings closer to the office." The children accepted the explanation without question. Olivia never corrected it. She refused to involve them in adult conflict. Even when she found a restaurant receipt tucked into Ethan's jacket pocket, 2 expensive dinners, 2 glasses of wine, 2 desserts, she quietly folded it back where she had found it. She already suspected another woman existed. But exposing the affair to Noah and Lily would only make them carry pain they hadn't chosen. Instead, she cried alone in the laundry room after everyone had gone to bed. One evening, while helping Lily practice spelling words, the little girl suddenly asked, "Mom." "Yes, sweetheart." "Are you and Daddy mad at each other?" Olivia paused. Children noticed everything, even when adults believed they were hiding it. She smiled gently. "Sometimes grown-ups disagree." "Will you stop loving each other?" Olivia swallowed hard. "I don't know." Lily looked down at her workbook. "But you'll always love us." Olivia reached across the table and held both of her daughter's tiny hands. There is nothing in this world that could ever change that. Those words would become the promise she repeated to herself for the next 7 years. 2 days later, Ethan officially filed for divorce. The petition arrived in a thick white envelope just after 4 in the afternoon. Olivia was correcting watercolor projects when the school secretary knocked softly on the classroom door. "This was delivered for you." She recognized the law firm's logo immediately. For several seconds, she simply stared at the envelope. Around her, 22 children laughed while washing paintbrushes. Someone accidentally spilled purple paint across the sink. Another student proudly held up a crooked paper bird. Life continued moving. Only Olivia stood completely still. That evening, she waited until Noah and Lily were asleep before opening the packet. 38 pages. Legal language. Property division. Custody requests. Financial statements. One sentence struck harder than all the others. Petitioner requests sole physical custody of the minor children. Her hands began trembling. She wasn't losing a marriage. She was about to fight for motherhood itself. The following month became a blur of meetings, paperwork, and quiet heartbreak. Friends from school offered encouragement. Parents of former students brought homemade dinners. The church organized babysitting whenever Olivia needed to meet with her attorney. She accepted every kindness with gratitude. But every night she still lay awake wondering how love had become evidence in a courtroom. Meanwhile, Ethan appeared increasingly confident. His attorney, Victoria Sanders, specialized in high-conflict custody cases. She was calm, precise, and exceptionally prepared. She requested financial records, housing evaluations, employment histories, psychological assessments. Everything became numbers: income, savings, insurance, mortgage equity, investment accounts. None of it measured who tucked Noah into bed after nightmares. None of it measured who knew Lily still hated peas, but secretly loved broccoli with cheese. None of it measured bedtime stories, or scraped knees, or birthday songs, or whispered prayers. The custody hearing finally arrived on a gray February morning. Snow covered the courthouse steps. Inside, everything smelled faintly of coffee and old paper. Olivia wore the navy dress she had purchased 5 years earlier for a school awards ceremony. It no longer fit quite as comfortably. Stress had stolen nearly 12 pounds. Ethan arrived in an expensive charcoal suit. He nodded politely. "Morning?" She nodded back. Neither smiled. The hearing lasted almost 6 hours. Experts testified. Financial records appeared on large screens. Character references spoke. Teachers praised Olivia's devotion. Business associates praised Ethan's stability. Every compliment somehow became another comparison. Near the end, Ethan himself took the stand. His voice remained steady. "I love my children. I've worked hard to provide for them. I can offer them better educational opportunities. My work schedule has become much more flexible." All true. Then came the sentence Olivia would never forget. "I don't question Olivia's heart." He paused. "I question her ability to give our children the future they deserve." The courtroom fell silent. Olivia felt something inside her crack. Not because the words were cruel, because once, many years ago, Ethan had been the person who believed in her more than anyone else. Now he was calmly explaining why she wasn't enough. When it was Olivia's turn to speak, she didn't attack Ethan. She didn't mention the affair she suspected. She didn't describe lonely nights. She didn't list broken promises. Instead, she looked toward the judge. "I know I don't earn as much." Her voice remained soft. "I know I can't compete with private schools or expensive vacations." She took a slow breath. "But every decision I've ever made has been with Noah and Lily in mind." She reached into her canvas bag. Martin gently touched her arm. "Olivia." She nodded. "I just want to show something." The judge allowed it. Olivia carefully placed the dented blue tin box on the witness stand. People exchanged confused looks. She opened the lid. Inside lay dozens of broken crayons. "My students ask why I keep these." A faint smile appeared, despite the tears gathering in her eye. "I tell them broken crayons still color." She looked directly at the judge. "People don't stop having value because life breaks them." Then she looked toward Ethan. "I hope my children grow up believing that." For just a moment, the courtroom became completely still. Even Victoria lowered her pen. The judge thanked Olivia for her testimony. 3 weeks later, the ruling arrived. Joint legal custody. Primary physical custody awarded to Ethan Jordan. The house awarded to Ethan due to financial equity and child residence considerations. Olivia was granted alternate weekends and one evening each week. She sat in her lawyer's office reading the decision. Everything blurred. Martin quietly slid a box of tissues across the desk. "I'm sorry." She folded the papers carefully. "I don't want Noah and Lily to see me crying." "You don't have to be strong every second." She managed a faint smile. "No." She stood. "I only have to be strong when they can see me." On the day she moved out, the children were at school. Ethan had suggested it would be easier that way. Maybe he truly believed it. Maybe he simply wanted to avoid another emotional scene. The moving truck carried away little. A bed, books, several boxes of clothes, art supplies, kitchen dishes she had purchased before marriage. Finally, Olivia walked through the empty living room one last time. She looked at the pencil marks on the hallway wall where Noah and Lily's heights had been measured every birthday. She gently traced the tallest line with her fingertip. Then she picked up the small, blue tin box from the windowsill. It was the very last thing she carried out of the house. As she stepped onto the porch, rain began falling. She turned once, not to mourn the house, not even the marriage, but the ordinary life that had quietly disappeared without anyone noticing the exact moment it ended. Olivia Jordan's new apartment was barely 1/3 the size of the home she had left behind. It sat on the second floor of an aging brick building on the east side of Columbus, squeezed between a laundromat and a family-owned hardware store. The hallway smelled faintly of old carpet and fresh paint, as if the landlord tried every few months to convince new tenants the building was younger than it really was. Apartment 2, B, contained a tiny bedroom, a narrow living room, a kitchenette with mismatched cabinets, and one window overlooking a parking lot. The first night, Olivia unpacked only what she absolutely needed. A mattress, 2 blankets, a coffee maker, several boxes of books, art supplies. Finally, she placed the old blue tin box of broken crayons on the windowsill. For a long time, she simply stared at it. The apartment echoed with silence. No laughter from Noah racing upstairs. No Lily singing to her stuffed rabbit. No footsteps. No bedtime arguments. Only silence. She wanted to cry. Instead, she opened the tin box. She picked up a broken yellow crayon and slowly rolled it between her fingers. "Broken crayon, still color," she whispered into the empty room. The words sounded different now, less like something she taught children, more like something she desperately needed to believe herself. The next morning began at 5:00 a.m. There was no time to grieve. Rent would be due in 3 weeks. Utilities needed to be paid. Her salary as a public school art teacher had never been large, and after legal fees, she had almost no savings left. So Olivia quietly rebuilt her life 1 hour at a time. From 7:30 until 3, she taught art at Lincoln Elementary. At 4, she changed into a black polo shirt and apron before beginning an evening shift at a neighborhood cafe called Maple Street Coffee. She cleared tables, filled coffee cups, wiped counters, smiled at strangers who never imagined the woman bringing their blueberry muffins had once spent her afternoons helping children discover confidence through paint. By 9:30, after finishing the cafe shift, she walked 3 blocks to a small print shop. 3 nights each week, she organized custom orders, trimmed posters, boxed business cards, and cleaned the equipment before returning home close to midnight. Saturday mornings belonged to the print shop. Sunday afternoons belonged somewhere else entirely. A small community center on the south side of Columbus. The building had once been an old church basement. Now it served children whose families couldn't afford after-school programs. There was no art teacher, no budget, no supplies, only folding tables and worn-out chairs. The director apologized the first day. "I'm afraid we don't have much." Olivia smiled. "I've made beautiful things with less," She brought boxes of donated paper, half-used paint bottles, recycled cardboard, and of course the familiar blue tin filled with broken crayons. The children loved it immediately. One little boy laughed. "These are tiny. They still work?" "Really?" Olivia smiled. "Let's find out." Soon, colorful drawings covered every table. The room filled with laughter. For 2 hours every Sunday, Olivia forgot the emptiness waiting back at apartment 2B. Those hours became her refuge. Every Wednesday evening, according to the custody agreement, Noah and Lily were supposed to have dinner with their mother. The first week they came. Olivia cooked homemade macaroni and cheese because Noah's favorite meal had never changed. Lily insisted on helping set the table. For 90 precious minutes, the apartment finally sounded like home. Then Ethan knocked. "It's time." The children hugged her goodbye. The apartment fell silent again. The second week, Ethan texted an hour beforehand. Soccer practice ran late. Could they reschedule? Of course. The following week came another excuse. School project, birthday party, family gathering. Always reasonable, always temporary. Months passed. Wednesday dinners quietly disappeared. Alternate weekends slowly became one Saturday afternoon every few weeks. Olivia never argued in front of the children. She simply waited and hoped. Every Sunday night, after finishing at the community center, she sat at her small kitchen table with a cup of tea and wrote a letter. One for Noah, one for Lily. "Dear Noah, today I met a little boy who reminded me of how brave you were when you learned to ride your bicycle. I hope you're still asking wonderful questions. I miss hearing them. Love, Mom. Dear Lily, the tulips are blooming outside my apartment. You would have loved drawing them. I still remember how carefully you colored flower petals. I love you every single day. Love, Mom." She placed each letter into an envelope. She addressed them carefully. She mailed every one, week after week, month after month. She never missed. No replies ever came. At first, she assumed the children were simply too young. Later, she wondered if perhaps Ethan forgot to encourage them. Eventually, she stopped wondering. She simply kept writing. Because mothers did not stop loving simply because nobody answered. One rainy Tuesday evening, while wiping tables at Maple Street Coffee, Olivia noticed a teenage waitress named Emma struggling to carry a heavy tray. Without hesitation, Olivia hurried over. "I've got it." Emma sighed with relief. "Thanks. You've been here 6 hours already." "So have you." Emma looked at Olivia's tired eyes. "How do you do it?" Olivia smiled. "1 hour at a time. You ever think about quitting one of your jobs?" "Every day." "So why don't you—" Olivia glanced toward the front window, where rain streaked across the glass. "Because hope costs money until it starts paying you back." Emma didn't fully understand, but years later she would remember that sentence. One afternoon at school, a student accidentally knocked the blue tin box onto the floor. Broken crayons scattered everywhere. Several children rushed to help. One girl frowned. "I'm sorry." Olivia knelt beside her. "What happened?" "I broke them more." Olivia picked up a snapped blue crayon. She drew a tiny bird on scrap paper, then handed it to the girl. "Looks like it still works." The classroom laughed. The little girl smiled again. Moments like that reminded Olivia why she refused to become bitter. Pain had entered her life. She simply refused to let it spread into someone else's. Winter slowly gave way to spring. Bills remained difficult. Sleep remained scarce. Loneliness never fully disappeared. Yet something inside Olivia quietly changed. She stopped measuring her life by everything she had lost. Instead, she counted the things she could still give. A smile to a frightened child. Encouragement to a struggling waitress. Art lessons on Sunday afternoons. Letters to 2 children who might never read them. Every act felt impossibly small. Yet each one made tomorrow a little easier than yesterday. Unknown to Olivia, someone had begun watching her Sunday classes. Rebecca Collins, a licensed social worker assigned to several neighborhoods on Columbus's south side, often visited the community center to check on children receiving family services. The first Sunday, she noticed Olivia Rebecca expected another volunteer passing time before moving on. Instead, she found 30 children sitting in complete silence, listening to one woman explain why broken crayons deserved another chance. Rebecca stayed by the doorway for nearly an hour. She watched Olivia kneel beside every child. She noticed that Olivia remembered every name, every birthday, every favorite color. She never hurried anyone. She never raised her voice. One little boy accidentally spilled paint across another child's picture and immediately burst into tears. Before anyone else could react, Olivia calmly placed a clean sheet of paper beside the ruined painting. "You know what?" "What?" "I think this painting just wants to become something different." Within minutes, both children were laughing together. Rebecca found herself unexpectedly wiping away a tear. Most professionals she worked with focused on correcting behavior. Olivia restored confidence instead. As the children left that afternoon, each received a tiny drawing made from one of the broken crayons. Rebecca waited until the room emptied. Then she walked over. "You must be Olivia Jordan." Olivia smiled warmly. "I am? I'm Rebecca Collins." They shook hands. "I've been watching your class." Olivia laughed softly. "I hope that's a good thing." Rebecca looked around the room filled with colorful artwork. "It may be one of the best things I've seen all year." Olivia had no idea that this quiet introduction would become the first step toward changing not only her own future, but the lives of thousands of children she had not yet met. Rebecca Collins did not believe in miracles. After 13 years as a licensed social worker, she had learned that real change rarely arrived with dramatic speeches or unexpected fortunes. More often it began with someone showing up again and again when everyone else had stopped trying. That was why Olivia Jordan caught her attention. For 3 consecutive Sundays, Rebecca returned to the community center without announcing herself. Each visit confirmed what she had suspected. Olivia never treated the children like charity cases. She spoke to them as artists, as dreamers, as people whose futures had not yet been decided. On the 4th Sunday, Rebecca arrived with a young girl standing quietly beside her. The child appeared to be about 9 years old. Her oversized gray hoodie nearly swallowed her small frame. Long, dark curls covered part of her face. She never looked directly at anyone. Her name was Maya Thompson. Rebecca knelt beside her before entering the classroom. "You remember what we talked about?" Maya gave the smallest nod. "You don't have to talk today." Another nod. "You can just watch if you want." Still no words. Olivia noticed them from across the room. Instead of walking over immediately, she finished helping another child tape together a torn drawing. Only after the children had settled into their seats did she approach Rebecca and Maya. "Good afternoon," Rebecca smiled. "Olivia, this is Maya." Olivia crouched until her eyes were level with the little girl. "I'm really glad you're here." Maya stared at the floor. No response. Olivia didn't seem disappointed. "You don't have to say anything." She simply pointed toward an empty chair near the window. "That's my favorite seat." After a few moments, Maya slowly walked over and sat down. The other children immediately began choosing colors from several plastic containers. Maya didn't move. She folded her hands tightly in her lap. Olivia quietly opened the familiar blue tin box. She reached inside and selected a broken purple crayon barely longer than her thumb. Walking over, she gently placed it on the table in front of Maya. The girl frowned. "It's broken." Her voice was so soft Rebecca almost missed it. Olivia smiled. "It is." "I can't use it." Instead of answering, Olivia took a blank sheet of paper. She picked up the same broken crayon. With slow, careful strokes, she drew the outline of a butterfly. Then she added flowers, clouds, a smiling sun. When she finished, she slid the drawing toward Maya. "What do you think?" The little girl stared at the page. "It's pretty. Interesting." Olivia handed her the crayon. It never stopped working. For nearly 30 seconds, Maya didn't move. Then, cautiously, she picked up the tiny purple crayon. She drew one single line. Then another. A flower. Another flower. Within minutes, she had forgotten the crayon was broken. She only remembered that she could still create something beautiful. Rebecca watched silently from the doorway. She had spent months trying to persuade Maya to participate in therapy sessions. This was the first voluntary drawing the child had made since entering foster care. When class ended, Maya carefully placed the little purple crayon back into Olivia's hand. "You can keep it." Maya hesitated. "Really? I have plenty more." For the first time all afternoon, the girl smiled. It lasted only a second. But Rebecca saw it. And so did Olivia. After the children left, Rebecca helped stack folding chairs. "You know her story?" she asked quietly. Olivia shook her head. "No?" "Her mother died last year." Olivia stopped folding the chair in her hands. "Her father struggled with addiction?" Rebecca nodded. "She moved through 3 foster homes in 6 months." Olivia closed her eyes briefly. No wonder she looked frightened. "She barely speaks." Olivia glanced toward the table where Maya had been sitting. "She spoke today. Because of you." Olivia smiled gently. "No." She looked at the little purple crayon still resting in her palm. Because she remembered she still could. Rebecca left the building that afternoon, unable to stop thinking about what she had witnessed. 2 days later, she called Olivia during lunch break. "I have a question." "I'm listening. Would you ever consider working with more children like Maya?" Olivia laughed softly. "I already would. I mean formally. As part of the County Trauma Support Program." Olivia paused. "I don't have any counseling qualifications." "We already have counselors." Rebecca smiled into the phone. "What we don't have is someone who teaches hope." The words stayed with Olivia long after the call ended. That evening, after finishing her cafe shift, she stopped by the grocery store. Her shopping basket contained exactly 7 items: milk, bread, eggs, pasta, tomato soup, bananas, peanut butter. At the checkout register, she carefully counted every dollar before handing over the cash. After paying, only $12 remained in her wallet until next Friday. As she walked toward the parking lot, her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "Noah has a baseball tournament this weekend. We'll need to skip visitation. Thanks for understanding." There was no question, no apology, only a statement. Olivia stared at the screen for several seconds. She typed 3 different replies, deleted each one. Finally, she wrote, only, "Tell him I'm proud of him." Then she put the phone away before tears could blur the screen. That night, she wrote 2 more letters. "Dear Noah, I heard about your baseball tournament. Whether you win or lose, I hope you remember that courage matters more than scoreboards. I'm cheering for you. Always. Love, Mom. Dear Lily, I found a butterfly today that reminded me of the sweater you used to wear. I hope you're smiling often. I miss your laugh every single day. Love, Mom." She sealed both envelopes, placed stamps on them, set them beside the door for mourning. She never skipped a week. Not once. The following Sunday, Maya returned. This time, she walked directly to the same chair near the window. She didn't wait for instructions. Halfway through class, she quietly raised her hand. "Miss Jordan?" "Yes. My butterfly needs another flower." Olivia smiled. "I think that's an excellent problem." The other children laughed. Soon, Maya laughed too. The sound surprised even herself. Week after week, the transformation continued. The little girl who once refused to speak now helped younger children clean brushes. She reminded everyone to share scissors. She even began encouraging another shy boy who preferred hiding beneath the table. "Come draw with me," Maya whispered. "It's okay." Rebecca noticed something remarkable. Maya wasn't simply healing. She was passing healing forward, exactly the way Olivia did. One afternoon, Rebecca invited Olivia to lunch at a modest diner near the courthouse. After ordering grilled cheese sandwiches, Rebecca opened a thick folder. "I've been keeping notes." Olivia looked confused. "About what?" "You." "My attendance," Rebecca laughed. "No." She slid several papers across the table. Letters from school principals praising Olivia's volunteer work, testimonials from foster parents, comments from community center staff. Even drawings children had made with handwritten messages. One simply read, "Miss Olivia makes broken things happy." Olivia blinked rapidly. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to." Rebecca leaned forward. "I've spent months recommending programs for county funding. And I think yours deserves support." Olivia looked around the restaurant before lowering her voice. "Rebecca, I don't even have a program. You have children showing measurable emotional improvement. I have folding tables. You have results. I have broken crayons." Rebecca smiled. "Exactly." For the first time since the divorce, someone wasn't looking at Olivia's bank account. Someone wasn't measuring her by income square footage or career title. Someone was measuring what happened to people after meeting her. As they finished lunch, Rebecca handed Olivia a business card. "There will be a community nonprofit networking event next month. I don't belong there. I think you do. I've never written a grant. I'll help. I've never spoken to donors. You'll learn." Olivia smiled uncertainly. "I'm just an art teacher." Rebecca shook her head. "No." She looked directly into Olivia's eyes. "You're someone who helps wounded children believe they still matter." She tapped the blue tin box peeking from Olivia's canvas bag beside the chair. "One day, people are going to understand that this little box is worth far more than anyone realizes." Olivia laughed at the idea. She couldn't imagine anyone seeing value in an old dented container filled with discarded crayons. To her, it was simply a reminder that broken things still had purpose. She had no way of knowing that Rebecca's faith in her would soon open a door that neither of them had ever imagined. 2 years passed, almost without Olivia Jordan noticing. Life settled into a rhythm measured not by seasons, but by responsibilities. School in the mornings, coffee shop in the evenings, community center every Sunday, letters to Noah and Lily every week. The blue tin box remained on the front table of every art class she taught, no matter where the class happened. Its dents had multiplied. Its paint had faded even more. But inside, dozens of broken crayons continued coloring hundreds of children's drawings. Word about the Sunday art program slowly spread across Columbus. At first, only children from nearby neighborhoods attended. Then foster parents began driving across town. Elementary school counselors started recommending the class to families coping with grief, divorce, or trauma. By the beginning of the 3rd year, folding chairs were no longer enough. Children sat on windowsills, on the floor, against the walls. Every Sunday afternoon, nearly 50 children squeezed into a room designed for half that number. One volunteer laughed as she looked around. "We've run out of tables." Olivia smiled. "We still have floor." The children cheered. Nobody seemed to mind. Rebecca Collins noticed something else. The children who had attended Olivia's classes the longest were beginning to help the newer ones. Maya Thompson, now 11, arrived 30 minutes early every Sunday. Without being asked, she arranged paper, filled water cups, sharpened colored pencils. Most importantly, she welcomed frightened newcomers. One rainy afternoon, a small boy refused to enter the room. He stood in the hallway hugging his backpack. Maya quietly walked over. "Hi." No answer. You don't have to talk. Still nothing. She reached into the familiar blue tin box, pulled out a broken orange crayon, held it out. This one's my favorite. The boy looked confused. It's broken. I know. It won't work. Maya smiled exactly the way Olivia always smiled. That's what I used to think. 20 minutes later, the little boy was drawing dinosaurs beside everyone else. Rebecca watched from across the room. She realized the lessons were no longer coming only from Olivia. They were spreading naturally from child to child. Hope had become contagious. Meanwhile, Olivia's own life remained painfully simple. She still lived in apartment 2B. Her Honda Civic now had nearly 200,000 miles. The cafe manager had promoted her to evening supervisor, adding slightly better pay, but longer hours. Most nights she reached home close to midnight. She often graded student artwork while eating cereal because she was too tired to cook. Yet no one at school ever heard her complain. One Thursday morning, Principal Denise Walker stopped Olivia in the hallway. I've been looking for you. Everything okay? I received another thank you letter. For me? It came from a parent. Denise handed her the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Dear Mrs. Jordan. My son hadn't smiled since losing his older brother. Yesterday he brought home a drawing and told me, broken crayons still color. I don't know exactly what happened in your classroom. I only know I got my little boy back. Thank you. Olivia folded the letter carefully. She never threw away notes like these. They reminded her that even invisible work mattered. That evening, she almost forgot it was Thursday, until she checked her mailbox. Nothing. No letters from Noah, no birthday cards, no drawings. Nothing. She stood beside the mailbox much longer than necessary. An elderly neighbor carrying groceries smiled kindly. You waiting for something special? Olivia forced a smile. Maybe next week. The woman nodded. I hope it comes. So do I. The neighbor never knew she wasn't waiting for a package. She was waiting for proof that her children still remembered her. Across town, Noah and Lily were growing quickly. Noah had become captain of his middle school baseball team. Lily loved science and dreamed of becoming a veterinarian. Their bedrooms were larger now. They attended better schools. They owned newer clothes. Everything Ethan had promised during the custody hearing had become reality, at least on the surface. One Saturday afternoon, Noah wandered into Ethan's home office. Dad. Yeah. Can I ask something? Sure. When was the last time Mom called? Ethan hesitated. I'm not sure. I don't remember hearing from her. She's busy. Noah nodded slowly. I guess. Neither realized that dozens of letters sat hidden inside a storage box in the garage. Every letter Olivia mailed had arrived, every single one. Ethan never intended to throw them away. At first, he believed the children needed stability. He worried emotional letters might confuse them. Then months became years. The unopened envelopes accumulated. Eventually, avoiding the truth became easier than explaining it. Each new letter disappeared into the same cardboard box. He rarely looked inside, but he never stopped keeping them. Back at the community center, another challenge emerged. The building director approached Olivia after class one Sunday. I need to talk. Of course. He looked uncomfortable. The church that owns this building raised the rent. Oh. We may have to reduce community programs. Olivia understood immediately. Our classroom. I'm afraid so. When? Possibly next month. She nodded calmly. We'll figure something out. But on the drive home, she cried for the first time in months. Not for herself, for the children. Where would Maya go? The shy little boy with the dinosaurs. The sisters, who had finally started speaking after witnessing domestic violence art, had become their safest place. Losing it felt unbearable. The following week, Rebecca arranged a meeting. "I know someone." Olivia looked up. "A local business owner?" Rebecca smiled. "Several, actually. I'm not very good at asking for money." "I know. I'd rather teach." Rebecca laughed softly. "Then let your heart do the talking." A small fundraising breakfast was organized at the public library. Only 12 people attended. 3 nonprofit leaders, a retired judge, 2 teachers, several business owners. Olivia nearly canceled 3 times before walking inside. She wore the same navy dress she had worn during the custody hearing years earlier. It still fit a little loosely. When Rebecca introduced her, Olivia carried only one thing to the podium: the old blue tin box. She placed it on the table. "This is the most valuable thing I own." Several people exchanged puzzled looks. She opened the lid. Inside lay dozens of tiny crayons. "When children come into my classroom believing they're broken, I ask them one question." She held up a cracked green crayon. "What color is this?" Someone answered quietly. "Green." "Does it stop being green because it's broken?" Silence filled the room. "I've learned something." She looked around slowly. Children don't always need someone to fix them immediately. Sometimes they need someone willing to sit beside them until they remember they still have color. No dramatic music played. No standing ovation followed. People simply listened. Afterward, several attendees quietly thanked her before leaving. Olivia assumed the breakfast had failed. 3 days later, small envelopes began arriving. One contained $50. Another held $100. A retired teacher mailed 25 with a handwritten note, "Keep buying paper." A local bakery offered free snacks twice a month. An office supply company donated markers. Nothing was enormous. Everything mattered. The classes continued. More volunteers joined. Parents began staying after lessons to help clean. Hope seemed to attract people who wanted to contribute. Yet one person remained skeptical: Ethan. During one of Noah's baseball games, another father casually mentioned seeing Olivia's community program featured in a neighborhood newsletter. "I hear your ex-wife's doing some kind of art therapy." Ethan shrugged. "Something like that." "Sounds impressive." "It's volunteer work." The conversation ended there, but Ethan couldn't stop thinking about it. Volunteer work. That had always been Olivia's weakness, hadn't it? Choosing passion over practicality. He convinced himself nothing had really changed. After all, she still lived in a small apartment, still worked multiple jobs, still struggled financially. He never imagined those quiet Sunday afternoons were planting seeds that would eventually reach far beyond Columbus. Late one Sunday evening, after everyone had gone home, Olivia and Rebecca sat alone cleaning paint trays. Rebecca suddenly smiled. "I forgot to tell you." "What?" "I received a phone call." "From who?" "A woman named Evelyn Carter." Olivia looked puzzled. "Who's that?" Rebecca rinsed another brush. "The executive director of the National Creative Futures Foundation." Olivia blinked. "I've heard of them." "They fund children's programs across the country." Rebecca smiled wider. "They asked if they could come watch one of your classes." Olivia laughed nervously. "They must have the wrong Olivia Jordan." Rebecca closed the blue tin box and gently placed it into Olivia's hands. "I don't think they do." Olivia looked down at the familiar container. For years it had represented only memories, heartbreak, and hope. She still couldn't imagine that soon it would become the symbol that changed her entire life. The following Sunday, Olivia Jordan swept the community center floor 3 separate times before the children arrived. She rarely worried about appearances. Normally she welcomed every child exactly as the room was, but today felt different. Rebecca Collins had warned her that Evelyn Carter, executive director of the National Creative Futures Foundation, planned to observe the class, not to speak, not to make promises, simply to watch. Olivia kept reminding herself that nothing needed to change. The children didn't know anyone important was coming. They deserved the same classroom they always received. Still, she straightened every stack of paper twice. Maya Thompson noticed immediately. "You look nervous," Olivia laughed. "Do I? A little." "I'm trying not to." Maya smiled. "The broken crayons still work." Olivia looked at her for a moment before laughing again. "Thank you." At exactly 1 o'clock, the classroom began filling with children. Parents signed attendance sheets. Volunteers arranged paint cups. Rebecca quietly entered with a woman wearing a charcoal blazer, simple pearl earrings, and comfortable walking shoes instead of expensive heels. She appeared to be in her late 50s. Her silver hair was neatly tied back. Nothing about Evelyn Carter suggested wealth or authority. She carried no assistants, no photographers, no notebook, only a plain leather folder. Rebecca introduced them quietly. "Olivia, this is Evelyn." Olivia extended her hand. "It's wonderful to meet you." "The pleasure is mine." "I hope today's class helps you understand what we're trying to do." Evelyn smiled gently. "I'm not here to judge. I'm here to learn." Then, without another word, she took a folding chair near the back wall. She never interrupted, never asked questions. She simply watched. The class began exactly as always. Olivia held up the familiar blue tin box. "Who remembers our favorite saying?" Dozens of voices answered together. "Broken crayons still color." Even Evelyn smiled. The afternoon lesson focused on self-portraits. But there was one unusual rule. Instead of drawing how they looked today, every child would draw who they hoped to become. "I don't care whether you're good at drawing," Olivia explained. "I care whether you're brave enough to imagine your future." Hands immediately shot into the air. "I want to be a firefighter. I want to build rockets. I want to own a bakery. I want to help animals. I want to be a teacher like you." The room filled with excited laughter. Evelyn quietly observed every interaction. She noticed something unusual. Olivia spent almost no time correcting artwork. Instead, she asked questions. "What makes you choose that color? How does that picture make you feel? What do you want people to notice first?" She wasn't teaching children how to draw. She was teaching them how to believe. Halfway through the lesson, a loud crash interrupted the room. A little boy named Carson accidentally knocked an entire container of blue paint off the table. Paint splashed across another child's nearly finished portrait. For a second, complete silence filled the room. Carson's face turned pale. "I'm sorry." The other little girl stared at her ruined picture. Her eyes filled with tears. Evelyn instinctively leaned forward. She expected frustration, perhaps disappointment. Instead, Olivia calmly picked up the damaged painting. She studied it for several seconds, then smiled. "I think something interesting just happened." The children looked confused. Olivia grabbed a sponge. She gently dabbed the wet blue paint until it resembled clouds. Then she picked up a white crayon. Within moments, the ruined portrait had become a little girl, standing beneath a bright blue sky. She handed it back. "What do you think now?" the girl gasped. "It's prettier." Carson stared in disbelief. "I messed it up." "No." Olivia placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You changed the story." The tension disappeared instantly. Several children clapped. Others immediately began imagining how mistakes could become something beautiful. From the back of the room, Evelyn quietly wiped the corner of one eye. She had funded hundreds of children's programs across America. She had never seen anyone transform failure into confidence so naturally. Near the end of class, Maya approached Olivia holding a carefully folded piece of paper. "I made something." "Can I see?" Maya unfolded the drawing. It showed a little girl standing beside an older woman. Between them rested the blue tin box. Above the picture, in careful handwriting, Maya had written, "She helped me find my colors." Olivia swallowed hard. "It's beautiful. You can keep it." Olivia hugged the drawing against her chest. "I will." As parents began arriving, Evelyn remained seated. She watched children hug Olivia goodbye. She noticed several who had arrived withdrawn, now leaving with genuine smiles. Nobody rushed out. Many simply wanted one last conversation before going home. One foster father stopped beside Evelyn. "First time here?" She nodded. "Yes." He smiled. "My son used to have panic attacks every week." He pointed toward a laughing boy helping stack chairs. "He hasn't had one in 3 months." Then he walked away. Minutes later, another grandmother approached. "My granddaughter wouldn't speak after her mother's funeral." She smiled toward Olivia. "Now she sings while she paints." Again, no one realized Evelyn was listening. They were simply sharing gratitude. When the final child left, Olivia began wiping tables. She assumed Evelyn had already gone. Instead, the older woman quietly joined her. Without saying anything, Evelyn picked up a rag and started cleaning paint from one of the tables. Olivia looked surprised. "You don't have to do that." "I know. It's part of our routine. I thought I'd help." For several minutes, they worked side by side in comfortable silence. Finally, Evelyn asked one question. "Why do you still work 3 jobs?" Olivia hesitated. Rebecca hadn't expected that. "The community center doesn't pay." "I know. The elementary school salary covers most of my rent." "And the coffee shop?" "My utilities." "The print shop?" Olivia smiled softly. "The art supplies." Evelyn stopped wiping the table. "You buy these materials yourself?" "Mostly." "And the broken crayons?" Olivia laughed. "Those are free." "They're donations. They're leftovers people planned to throw away." Evelyn looked thoughtfully toward the blue tin box. "Interesting." Olivia noticed her expression. "They remind children that being damaged doesn't mean being useless." "No," Evelyn replied quietly. "They remind adults too." Rebecca watched the conversation unfold without interrupting. She recognized that look on Evelyn's face. Years of evaluating nonprofit leaders had taught Evelyn to distinguish between people chasing funding and people chasing purpose. Olivia had never once asked for money. She had spent the entire afternoon talking only about children. As they prepared to leave, Evelyn opened her leather folder. Inside was a simple document. Not a contract, not a check, just a proposal. "I'd like to introduce you to one of our corporate partners." Olivia looked surprised. "I thought you funded programs directly." "Sometimes. But not always." Rebecca glanced toward Evelyn. "Corporate partner, that hadn't been mentioned before." Evelyn continued. "They're interested in supporting children's mental health initiatives." Olivia frowned slightly. What would they expect? Visibility. "What kind?" "Their logo on promotional materials." Olivia listened carefully. "And?" "They'd also like exclusive rights to your curriculum." The room became quiet. Rebecca recognized the significance immediately. The offer could solve nearly every financial problem. Permanent classroom, full-time staff, reliable salaries, national exposure, everything Olivia had struggled for. Olivia slowly closed the folder. "I'm honored." Evelyn waited. "But I can't." Rebecca blinked. "You can't." Olivia nodded. "The children trust this place because nothing here belongs to a company. The sponsor would provide millions." "I understand. They could expand your program across the country." Olivia looked toward Maya's drawing still resting on the table. "I don't ever want a child wondering whether they're being helped because someone cares, or because they're part of a marketing campaign? Silence filled the room. Rebecca lowered her eyes. She hadn't expected that answer. Neither had Evelyn. Finally, Evelyn asked quietly, "So you're refusing?" "I'm protecting the reason this works." "And if the center closes," Olivia smiled sadly, "then I'll find another basement." "And if you never become successful," Olivia glanced toward the blue tin box, "I've already been successful." "How?" "I watched a little girl smile again today." Evelyn said nothing. She simply placed the proposal back into her folder. Then she extended her hand. "It was an honor meeting you, Olivia." "You too." As Evelyn walked toward the exit, Rebecca hurried after her. "I'm sorry." Evelyn stopped. "For what? I thought she'd accept." Evelyn smiled in a way Rebecca hadn't seen all afternoon. "I was hoping she wouldn't." Rebecca looked confused. "The corporate proposal wasn't why I came." "It wasn't?" "No." Evelyn looked back through the classroom window, where Olivia carefully placed the blue tin box back into her canvas bag. "I wanted to know whether her integrity would survive temptation." Rebecca smiled. "And," Evelyn closed her folder, "I've seen everything I needed to see." Neither Rebecca nor Olivia realized that the conversation about to follow over the coming weeks would change the future of the little community center forever. 3 months after Evelyn Carter visited the community center, Olivia Jordan stood outside the headquarters of the National Creative Futures Foundation with trembling hands. The building overlooked Lake Michigan in downtown Chicago. Glass walls reflected the morning sunlight. Professionally dressed employees hurried through revolving doors carrying coffee cups and laptops. Olivia looked down at her own outfit. The same navy dress, a neatly pressed gray cardigan, comfortable shoes instead of heels. The familiar blue canvas bag rested on her shoulder. Inside, carefully wrapped in a clean towel, sat the old dented tin box. Rebecca Collins nudged her gently. "You ready?" Olivia laughed nervously. "I've taught rooms full of frightened children. And I've never been this scared." Rebecca smiled. "Good. Good. It means this matters." Inside the conference room, 6 people waited around a polished wooden table. Program directors, financial officers, regional coordinators. At the far end sat Evelyn Carter. She stood immediately when Olivia entered. "I'm glad you came." "Thank you for inviting me." After brief introductions, everyone took their seats. Olivia noticed expensive presentation screens lining the walls. One director asked politely, "Did you bring slides?" Olivia blinked. "No." "A proposal." She slowly reached into her canvas bag. "I brought this." She placed the blue tin box in the center of the table. For a moment, no one spoke. One executive glanced curiously at Evelyn. Evelyn only smiled. "Please continue." Olivia opened the lid. Broken crayons of every imaginable color lay inside. Some were only an inch long. Others had no paper wrapping left. "They've been with me for years." She picked up a broken blue crayon. "People usually see trash." She set it back down. "I see possibility." Then she told them about Maya, about Carson, about the frightened little boy who believed broken crayons couldn't work. She described parents recovering hope through their children's artwork, teachers who copied the classroom philosophy, foster families who finally saw children smile again. She never mentioned herself. Not once. For nearly 40 minutes, she spoke entirely about children. When she finished, the room remained silent. Finally, the foundation's finance director cleared his throat. "Mrs. Jordan, please." "Olivia." She nodded. "How many children have participated in your program?" "I'm not exactly sure," Rebecca answered. "We counted." She handed out several folders. 843 over the past 3 years. The room became noticeably quieter. Another director examined the data. 92% of participating caregivers reported improved emotional expression. Someone else added, school attendance improved. Another voice, behavior referrals decreased. Olivia looked surprised. You tracked all that? Rebecca smiled. I knew one day someone would ask. Evelyn folded her hands. Olivia? Yes. What would happen if you didn't have to work 3 jobs anymore? The question caught her off guard. I've never really thought about it. Think now. Olivia looked toward the window. I'd teach more. What else? I'd visit schools. What else? I'd train volunteers. What else? She paused. I'd answer every child who needed help. Evelyn smiled. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. 2 weeks later, Olivia received a phone call while serving coffee at Maple Street Cafe. Mrs. Jordan. This is Olivia. This is Evelyn Carter. Olivia stepped into the storage room. Hello? The board voted unanimously. Her heart began racing. We're offering you a 3-year partnership. Olivia leaned against the wall. I don't understand. We'll fund expansion of your program. Tears instantly filled her eyes. We'll lease a permanent facility. She covered her mouth. We'll provide administrative support. She couldn't speak. And, Evelyn's voice softened, we'd like you to become the program director. For several seconds, only silence remained. Finally, Olivia whispered, I've never directed anything. You've already been leading for years. That evening, she resigned from the print shop. The owner shook her hand warmly. I wondered when someone smarter than me would finally hire you. She laughed through tears. The coffee shop. I'll stay a little longer. You don't have to. I want to leave the right way. Over the following months, life changed faster than Olivia could process. A former warehouse on the south side of Columbus was transformed into a bright children's creativity center. Sunlight poured through newly installed windows, walls filled with artwork. Long tables replaced folding chairs. A quiet reading corner overlooked a small garden. Most importantly, the first object placed inside the building wasn't furniture. It was the blue tin box. Olivia carried it herself. She set it on a small wooden shelf near the entrance. A brass plaque underneath read, Broken crayons, still color. Donated crayons accepted here. Children immediately began bringing broken crayons from home. The collection doubled, then tripled. Soon the little box overflowed. Volunteers found a larger container. Olivia shook her head. No, they won't fit. The children need to see where this started. So the original box remained. Overflowing, just like hope itself. Maya Thompson, now entering high school, became the program's youngest volunteer assistant. On her first official day, she wore a name badge proudly reading Youth Mentor. She stared at it for nearly a full minute. I never thought I'd have one of these. Olivia smiled. I always did. What made you believe that? You stopped seeing yourself as broken. Maya laughed. You tricked me. No. You did. Olivia smiled. You reminded yourself. Word spread quickly. School districts invited Olivia to train teachers. Children's hospitals requested workshops. Juvenile counseling centers asked for partnerships. The waiting list grew longer every month. With growth came new challenges. Some organizations wanted licensing agreements. Others proposed exclusive contracts. Several marketing firms suggested turning the blue tin box into a commercial brand. One consultant even recommended replacing the dented container with a polished, custom-designed version. It'll photograph better. Olivia politely refused. This box tells the truth. But it's old. I know. It looks damaged. Exactly. It isn't professional. Olivia smiled. It isn't pretending. Evelyn quietly supported every decision. One afternoon, she visited the center while children painted outside. She found Olivia organizing donated crayons. Can I ask something? Always. Do you know why I kept insisting on mentoring you personally? Olivia looked up. I've wondered. Evelyn leaned against the shelf holding the blue tin box. 27 years ago, I started my own nonprofit. I didn't know that. I failed. Olivia looked surprised. I accepted funding from people who wanted publicity more than purpose. What happened? I slowly changed to keep everyone happy. She smiled sadly. Eventually, I couldn't recognize my own mission. Olivia remained silent. I promised myself that if I ever found another leader whose purpose mattered more than recognition. She looked around the center filled with children's laughter. I'd help protect that purpose. Olivia hugged her unexpectedly. Thank you. Evelyn smiled. No. She looked toward the children. Thank them. Across town, Ethan Jordan's career continued climbing. He had recently become regional vice president at one of Ohio's largest commercial real estate firms. He bought a larger home, drove a luxury SUV, frequently appeared in local business magazines. At company dinners, colleagues praised his success. Yet his evenings often felt strangely quiet. Noah had become increasingly independent. Lily spent more time studying than talking. Family dinners rarely lasted long. One evening, Lily casually asked Dad, "Yeah, did Mom always teach art?" He nodded. Yes. Was she good? Ethan smiled faintly. Very. What was she like? The question lingered longer than expected. He remembered a young woman laughing while carrying a dented blue tin box full of crayons. He remembered believing she could brighten any room. He remembered promising never to let anything come between them. He quietly answered, "She made people feel seen." Lily smiled. "I wish I remembered more." Ethan looked away. "So do I." Meanwhile, Olivia never stopped writing letters. The stack of unanswered envelopes continued growing. She still mailed one to Noah, one to Lily, every single week. Now, however, she slipped something new into each envelope. A tiny drawing made from one of the broken crayons. She hoped that one day, somehow, those pictures would finally reach the children who had inspired so much of her strength. Unknown to everyone involved that day was drawing closer than anyone imagined. 5 years after leaving the house she had once called home, Olivia Jordan stood before a map of the United States covered with colored pins. Each pin represented a school, hospital, foster agency, or community center using the broken crayons still color curriculum. When Evelyn Carter first suggested placing a map on the office wall, Olivia thought it would remain mostly empty. Now more than 150 pins stretched from Ohio to Oregon. Rebecca Collins walked into the office carrying another envelope. "I think we need another color," Olivia laughed. "Already." Rebecca handed her the paperwork. "Alaska." Olivia blinked. "We're in Alaska now." "A children's hospital in Anchorage." Olivia smiled, then carefully placed another pin on the map. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Finally, Olivia whispered, "It started in a church basement." Rebecca corrected her gently. "It started long before that." She pointed toward the small wooden shelf near the entrance. "The first classroom was inside this box." The old blue tin box had not changed. It remained dented. Its lid still squeaked slightly when opened. Children continued adding broken crayons from every city that joined the program. Some mailed them with handwritten notes. One package from Arizona read, "These crayons helped my son smile again." Another from Maine contained only 3 tiny crayons and a short message. "We were told broken things couldn't help anyone. Thank you for proving otherwise." Olivia kept every note. The organization grew carefully. Every new instructor attended training led personally by Olivia. The first lesson had nothing to do with art supplies. Instead, she placed the blue tin box in the center of the room. Then she asked one question. "Who are we trying to fix?" New volunteers often answered, "The children." Olivia gently shook her head. "We're not here to fix anyone." Confused faces filled the room. "We're here to remind children they were never worthless." Those words became the foundation of every training session. Evelyn insisted the philosophy never be simplified into catchy marketing slogans. "This is not branding," she often reminded donors. "This is trust." Meanwhile, invitations arrived almost weekly. Universities requested lectures. Educational conferences wanted keynote speeches. Television producers called. Most offers Olivia declined politely. She preferred classrooms to stages. She believed children deserved her best energy. Still, Evelyn occasionally persuaded her. "People need to hear this." "I'd rather show it." Sometimes words open doors. At one national education conference in Denver, nearly 800 teachers filled the auditorium. Instead of beginning with statistics or research, Olivia quietly placed the blue tin box on the podium. Several audience members smiled curiously. She held up a broken red crayon. "Raise your hand if you'd throw this away." Hundreds of hands slowly rose. "So would most people." She paused. "Now imagine a child believes this is exactly how the world sees them." The room fell silent. When the conference ended, teachers lined up for nearly 2 hours. Not for autographs, to tell stories. One principal spoke through tears. "I've suspended children for years. Now, I'm going back to ask why they're hurting." A counselor hugged Olivia tightly. "I needed this as much as my students." Every conversation strengthened Olivia's conviction that adults needed healing almost as desperately as children. Back in Columbus, she continued living simply. Although the foundation offered a generous salary, she refused unnecessary luxury. She finally moved from apartment 2B into a modest 2-bedroom townhouse with a small backyard. Friends suggested buying something larger. "You've earned it." Olivia smiled. "I have enough." The extra bedroom became something unexpected, a quiet reading room for visiting children. Bookshelves lined one wall. Art supplies filled another. The blue tin box never left the center. On Saturday mornings, neighborhood children often gathered there before walking together to community workshops. Despite the organization's growth, one habit never changed. Every Sunday evening, Olivia sat at her kitchen table. She brewed tea, opened a fresh notebook, wrote 2 letters. "Dear Noah, today, a little boy told me he finally believes he's brave. I wondered if you've discovered that courage often grows quietly. I hope life is treating you kindly. I love you. Mom, dear Lily. A little girl painted butterflies today. She reminded me of you. I hope you still notice beautiful little things. I'm proud of you every single day. Love always, Mom." She enclosed another small drawing inside each envelope. Sometimes flowers, sometimes birds, sometimes sunsets. Every picture came from broken crayons. Every letter disappeared into the mailbox Monday morning. She never knew they were never reaching her children. One evening, Rebecca asked gently, "Do you ever think about stopping? Writing?" Rebecca nodded. "It has been years." Olivia looked out the window. "If they never read them," she paused, "I'll still know I never stopped reaching." Rebecca smiled sadly. "That's very you." Across town, Ethan Jordan's life looked successful to everyone around him. He had recently received another promotion. Business magazines featured his photo. He traveled constantly. Luxury hotels, airport lounges, corporate dinners. Yet whenever he returned home, he noticed something changing inside his family. Noah, now 17, had become quieter. Lily spent increasing amounts of time volunteering at an animal shelter. One evening, Ethan asked casually, "Where have you been all afternoon?" "The shelter." "Again?" "They needed help." He smiled. "You sound like your mother." The words escaped before he realized what he had said. Lily looked surprised. "Mom volunteered. All the time." "What kind of places?" He hesitated. "Schools. Community programs. Hospitals sometimes." Lily frowned thoughtfully. "I wish I remembered." Ethan said nothing. For the first time in years, guilt settled heavily across the dinner table. A week later, Noah came home carrying a permission slip. "Our school counselor wants volunteers for a youth leadership conference." "Sounds good." "They're bringing in organizations that work with kids recovering from trauma." Ethan glanced briefly at the brochure. One logo caught his attention. Broken crayons. Still color. He frowned. The name sounded strangely familiar, almost impossible to place. He handed the brochure back without another thought. Meanwhile, the organization continued expanding. One Friday afternoon, Evelyn called an executive meeting. "We've been approached by 3 national sponsors." Several board members looked interested. One proposal involved exclusive retail merchandise. Another suggested licensing children's products nationwide. The potential revenue reached millions. Everyone turned toward Olivia. She listened quietly, then asked only one question. Would every child still receive free access? The room became silent. One board member answered carefully, "Not exactly." "What would change?" "There may be enrollment fees." Olivia closed the proposal. "No." Another board member spoke. "But think about how much larger we could become." Olivia smiled gently. "If growth asks children to pay before they feel worthy." She shook her head. "We've already lost." Nobody argued, because everyone knew that answer was final. After the meeting, Evelyn found Olivia standing beside the map of colored pins. "You know the board would support almost anything you wanted." "I know." "You've become very influential." Olivia laughed softly. "I still feel like an elementary art teacher." "You always will." "I hope so." Evelyn smiled. "That's why this organization keeps growing." Late that evening, after everyone had left, Olivia walked through the empty building. She paused in every classroom, touched dried paint on one table, straightened a chair, closed a forgotten sketchbook. Finally, she stopped before the blue tin box. She gently opened the lid. Hundreds of tiny crayons now filled it, each donated by someone whose life had been touched by the program. She whispered the words she had spoken thousands of times. "Broken crayons, still color?" This time, however, another voice answered from behind her. "They certainly do." She turned. Maya Thompson stood in the doorway, wearing a college sweatshirt and carrying an acceptance letter. "I got in." Olivia covered her mouth. "You did?" "Social work." Tears filled both their eyes. "I want to help children the way you helped me." Olivia embraced her tightly. "You already have." Neither woman noticed the television crew quietly filming from outside the building as part of a national documentary about innovative children's programs. Within months, that documentary would introduce Olivia's work to millions of Americans, and somewhere among those viewers would be 2 teenagers who had no idea they were watching their own mother. The documentary aired on a quiet Sunday evening in early autumn. Olivia Jordan almost missed it. She had spent the day leading 2 workshops before driving 3 hours home from Cincinnati. By the time she unlocked her front door, she was exhausted. She set the blue tin box on its familiar shelf, fed the neighbor's cat she had promised to watch, changed into a comfortable sweater, then remembered Evelyn Carter's message. "Don't forget, tonight at 8:00. She smiled to herself. I almost did. The documentary lasted only 45 minutes. It featured teachers, counselors, former foster children, parents. Olivia appeared for less than 8 minutes. She spoke about children, never about herself, never about losing her marriage, never about the years of working 3 jobs. Instead, she ended with the same sentence she had spoken thousands of times. Broken crayons still color. Across Ohio, millions of viewers watched. Most forgot the program within days, but not everyone. At Lincoln High School in Columbus, guidance counselor Melissa Grant watched it with unusual attention. The following morning, she walked into the principal's office carrying a brochure. "Our student wellness retreat is next month." Principal Howard Lewis nodded. "I know. I think we need different speakers this year. What do you have in mind?" She placed the brochure on his desk. Broken crayons still color. He looked at it thoughtfully. "I saw the documentary. So did I. Our students are carrying more anxiety than ever." Melissa nodded. "I'd like them to experience this program." Within a week, arrangements were complete. 100 high school juniors from several Columbus schools would attend a 2-day resilience retreat. The Broken Crayons team would facilitate the workshops. Neither Olivia nor the school administrators realized that Noah Jordan and Lily Jordan attended one of those schools. Neither sibling knew anything about the organization. The program simply appeared on their class schedule. When permission slips came home, Ethan glanced at them while sorting mail. "You have to go." "It's required," Noah answered. Lily shrugged. 2 days of art activities?" Noah laughed. "I can't even draw stick figures." Ethan signed both forms without reading the brochure. He never noticed the organization's founder listed on the back. 3 weeks later, buses arrived at a wooded retreat center outside Columbus. Students complained about leaving their phones behind. Some rolled their eyes. Others joked that 2 days of emotional workshops would be boring. Noah sat beside his best friend Tyler. "This is going to be painful." Tyler grinned. "Maybe they'll let us nap." Nearby, Lily quietly watched the trees passing outside the window. She secretly hoped the retreat might be different from ordinary school events. She had been feeling strangely restless for months, as if something important was missing from her life. When the buses arrived, students were divided into smaller groups. Noah and Lily ended up in different sessions. Neither paid much attention to the instructor list. Inside, Workshop Room 3. Olivia arranged supplies across several tables. She no longer introduced herself as founder. She preferred something simpler. "Good morning. I'm Olivia. I'm glad you're here." Teenagers shuffled into the room with predictable skepticism. Several avoided eye contact. Some immediately sat in the back. Others crossed their arms. Olivia recognized the posture. She had seen it for years. Fear often looked like boredom. One tall boy muttered loudly, "This is kindergarten." Several students laughed. Olivia smiled. "Maybe." She held up the old blue tin box. "But kindergarten usually teaches us things adults forget." That answer earned a few curious looks. Meanwhile, across the hall, Lily attended another session led by Maya Thompson. Now in college studying social work, Maya had become one of the organization's strongest facilitators. She rarely mentioned her own childhood. Instead, she asked questions. "When was the last time someone listened without trying to fix you?" The room fell silent. Lily found herself thinking much longer than she expected. Back in Olivia's classroom, students received one unusual assignment. On each table sat broken crayons. No new supplies, only short, worn pieces. Immediately, the complaints began. "We can't use these. They're too small." "Don't you have normal ones?" Olivia simply smiled. "Try." Noah picked up a broken green crayon. Barely 2 inches remained. He rolled his eyes. "This won't work." Without looking at him, Olivia replied, "That's what most people say." Something about her voice felt strangely familiar, calm, gentle. He couldn't explain why. Reluctantly, he began sketching. To his surprise, the crayon worked perfectly. Beside him, another student laughed. "I guess it does work." Olivia nodded. "Broken things often do." As the morning continued, conversations slowly changed. Students stopped talking about drawing. They started talking about disappointment, failure, parents, loneliness, pressure. Noah rarely shared personal feelings, but somehow by lunch he found himself speaking. "My dad always says results matter." Olivia listened carefully. "And what do you think?" He stared at his paper. "I don't know anymore." "What makes you say that?" "My best friend didn't make varsity." "He thinks he's a failure." Olivia nodded thoughtfully. "What did you tell him?" "I told him he's still the same person." She smiled. "That's a good friend." Noah shrugged. "It didn't make him believe me." Olivia gently held up another broken crayon. "Sometimes people need to see truth before they can hear it." Again, something about her smile unsettled him. It felt familiar, comforting, almost remembered. During lunch, students wandered outside. Olivia remained inside organizing supplies. She noticed one unfinished drawing left on a table. It belonged to Noah. Instead of drawing himself, he had sketched a baseball glove with a small child standing beside it. In the corner, he had written only 3 words, "Still trying harder." Olivia stared at the picture longer than usual. Something about it touched her deeply. Without knowing why, she slipped a small note beneath the drawing before leaving for lunch. It read, "You never have to earn the right to matter." When Noah returned, he found the message. He read it twice, then quietly folded it into his wallet. Across the retreat center, Lily experienced something equally unexpected. During a journaling exercise, Maya asked everyone to write about someone they wished they remembered better. Without thinking, Lily wrote, "My mom." She barely remembered Olivia. Only fragments: a laugh, warm hands, someone reading bedtime stories, a smell like colored pencils and laundry detergent. Nothing more. The realization made her unexpectedly emotional. That afternoon, every workshop gathered in the main auditorium. Olivia stood backstage reviewing the closing activity. Maya approached. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." "You look nervous." "There are a lot of teenagers." "They're just taller children." Olivia laughed. "You sound exactly like Rebecca." Moments later, she walked onto the stage. Applause echoed politely through the auditorium. Noah looked up from the middle row. Something inside him froze. He recognized her voice instantly. The woman from his workshop. But now, seeing her under the stage lights, another strange feeling surfaced. He couldn't explain it, only that she seemed oddly familiar. Lily, seated several rows away, stared at the stage with growing curiosity. The speaker smiled exactly the way someone from a distant memory smiled. The expression tugged gently at something buried deep inside her childhood. Neither teenager understood why they suddenly found it difficult to look away. And Olivia, standing only a few dozen feet from her own children, had no idea they were sitting in the audience listening to every word she said. The retreat ended with something remarkably simple. No dramatic speeches, no emotional music, just one final exercise. Every student received an empty envelope. Olivia stood quietly at the front of the auditorium. "I'd like each of you to write one sentence." She waited while hundreds of teenagers looked at blank cards. "Write something you wish someone had told you when life became difficult." Pens slowly began moving. Some students stared for several minutes before writing a single word. Others filled both sides of the card. When everyone finished, volunteers collected the envelopes. Olivia smiled. "Now each of you will receive a different person's message." The envelopes were shuffled, redistributed. No names, no explanations, only anonymous encouragement. Noah opened his envelope. Inside, written in neat handwriting, were 6 simple words. "You never have to earn love." He froze. It echoed almost perfectly the note Olivia had slipped beneath his drawing earlier that day. He folded the card carefully and placed it beside the first note inside his wallet. Across the auditorium, Lily opened hers. It read, "You are allowed to remember slowly." She read it again. Something inside her tightened unexpectedly. She didn't understand why those words felt so personal. As students boarded buses that afternoon, many hugged workshop leaders. Others simply waved. Noah looked toward Olivia one last time before climbing aboard. She was speaking with another student and never noticed him. Still, he found himself smiling. "I actually liked this." Tyler stared at him. I know. You hated the idea." "I did." "So what changed?" Noah looked out the bus window. "I'm not really sure." Back at home that evening, Ethan asked the usual question. "How was the retreat?" "It was good," Lily answered. "Actually, really good." Noah nodded. "There was this woman." "What woman?" "The founder. She was different." Ethan smiled absent-mindedly while reading emails. What was her name? Neither teenager remembered. Only the organization. Broken crayons, still color. 3 weeks later, another event quietly altered the course of the family. Ethan searched the garage for golf clubs before an upcoming client outing. He moved several storage boxes stacked against the back wall. One cardboard box slipped from the shelf. Its contents spilled across the concrete floor. Hundreds of unopened envelopes scattered everywhere. He stared at them. For several long seconds he didn't move. Every envelope carried the same handwriting. Olivia Jordan. Everyone addressed either to Noah or Lily. His breathing slowed. He crouched beside the pile. The oldest envelopes had yellowed slightly with age. The newest looked almost fresh. He realized with sudden clarity exactly how many years had passed. He hadn't thrown them away. He simply kept postponing the conversation. At first he believed the children were too young, then too emotional, then too busy. Eventually he convinced himself reopening the past would only create confusion. Now the pile before him looked less like protection, more like evidence. The garage door opened. Noah stepped inside. "Dad?" Ethan instinctively pushed several envelopes back into the box. "What are those?" He hesitated. "Nothing important." Noah noticed the familiar handwriting. His expression changed. "Those are from Mom." Silence. "They're old." "Why do you have them?" Ethan looked away. "I meant to give them to you." "When?" No answer came. Noah slowly picked up one envelope. The postmark showed a date nearly 6 years earlier. His hands began shaking. "She wrote..." Ethan closed his eyes. "Yes." "Every week." Another silence. Noah looked around the garage. There weren't dozens. There were hundreds. His voice became barely audible. "You told us..." He couldn't finish. Ethan finally spoke. "I thought I was protecting you." "From what?" "I didn't want you confused." Noah stared at the unopened letters. "I wasn't confused. I thought she stopped caring." His voice cracked. "I believed you." Without another word, he grabbed several envelopes and walked into the house. Ethan didn't stop him. Minutes later, Lily heard her brother calling her name. "You need to come here." She entered his room. The bed was covered with letters. "What is this?" "They're from Mom." She laughed nervously. "No." He handed her one. The date made her smile disappear. She slowly opened the envelope. Inside rested a carefully folded drawing. A tiny butterfly colored with broken crayons. Beneath it was a letter. "Dear Lily, today one of my students painted butterflies after believing she couldn't create anything beautiful. It reminded me of how you used to stop and watch butterflies in our backyard. I hope you're still curious about the world. I miss you every day. Love always, Mom." Lily covered her mouth. Tears blurred the page almost instantly. She reached for another envelope, then another. Each contained a letter, a drawing, a memory, a birthday wish. Encouragement before school years she had already finished. Messages for holidays she barely remembered. Every week, without fail, she whispered, "She never stopped." Noah sat on the floor reading silently. One letter described his first baseball season. Another congratulated him on entering high school. Olivia somehow knew through old friends' newspaper announcements or school newsletters. She had followed their lives from a distance, without ever expecting an answer. Hours passed. Neither sibling noticed darkness outside. At nearly 10 o'clock, Ethan knocked softly. "Can I come in?" No response. He entered anyway. Noah looked up. "Why?" The single word carried years of misunderstanding. "I thought—" Ethan stopped. He no longer knew how to finish the sentence. "I made a mistake." Lily wiped away tears. "A mistake?" She gestured toward hundreds of letters. "This isn't one mistake." He nodded slowly. "I know. You let us believe she abandoned us." "I never said that." "You didn't have to." Silence filled the room. For the first time in years, Ethan had no explanation capable of protecting him from the truth. Finally, Noah asked quietly, "Does she know?" "Know what?" "That we never received these?" "I don't think so." Lily looked toward the stack of drawings. "She kept writing anyway." Neither teenager slept much that night. They read until sunrise. Some letters made them laugh, others made them cry. One described Lily's 7th birthday. Another imagined Noah's first driving lesson years before it happened. Olivia ended every letter the same way. "Love always, Mom." Not once did she complain. Not once did she criticize Ethan. Not once did she ask the children to choose sides. She simply loved them. The following morning, Noah carried several letters to school. During lunch, he unfolded the small note Olivia had given him at the retreat. "You never have to earn the right to matter." Then he compared the handwriting with one of the letters. His heart nearly stopped. Every curve, every letter, exactly the same. He stared at the paper for nearly a full minute. The woman who had led his workshop. The woman who had spoken about broken crayons. The founder of the organization. His eyes widened. He whispered to himself, "That was Mom." At almost the same moment, Lily reached the exact same realization while comparing the anonymous retreat card with one of the letters spread across her bedroom desk. For weeks they had admired a woman whose name they barely remembered. Now they understood. The person who had quietly changed the lives of thousands of children had never stopped trying to reach her own. And for the first time in years, both Noah and Lily knew exactly what they wanted to do next. They wanted to find their mother. 3 days after discovering the letters, Noah and Lily stood outside the Broken Crayons Still Color Community Center. Neither of them had told Ethan where they were going. They simply drove across town after school. The building looked nothing like they had imagined. There were no expensive signs, no grand entrance, just a cheerful brick building surrounded by colorful flower beds planted by neighborhood volunteers. Children laughed in the small garden beside the entrance. Parents chatted on benches while waiting for afternoon programs to finish. Through the glass doors, Lily noticed dozens of framed drawings covering the walls. She whispered, "It feels peaceful." Noah nodded. "I know." As they stepped inside, something immediately caught Lily's attention. A small wooden shelf stood beside the reception desk. On it rested an old dented blue tin box overflowing with broken crayons. A brass plaque beneath it read, "Broken Crayons Still Color." "Please leave your broken crayons here so another child can discover their color." Lily reached out carefully, but stopped before touching it. "It looks exactly like the one from the documentary." The receptionist smiled. "It is the one from the documentary. It's really that old. Older than most people think." It started everything. Before either teenager could ask another question, Maya Thompson approached carrying several art folders. She smiled warmly. "Can I help you?" Noah glanced nervously toward his sister. "We're looking for Olivia." "Do you have an appointment?" "No?" Maya noticed something unusual. Both teenagers looked anxious rather than curious. Lily hesitated. "We attended the retreat a few weeks ago." Recognition crossed Maya's face. "Oh. You enjoyed it." "We did. We hoped we could thank her." Maya smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry. Olivia's in Cleveland today." The disappointment on both faces was impossible to miss. "She'll be back tomorrow evening." Noah quietly nodded. "Okay." As they turned to leave, Maya stopped them. "Would you like to see the center?" They exchanged uncertain glances. "Sure." She led them through bright classrooms filled with easels, books, clay sculptures, and paintings. Children of every age worked quietly with volunteers. Nobody seemed rushed. Nobody raised their voice. Every room somehow felt safe. One little girl accidentally dropped her painting. Paint splattered across the floor. Instead of crying, she laughed. A volunteer smiled. "What happened?" "I made a bigger picture." Everyone nearby laughed with her. Noah looked around thoughtfully. "It's really like this," Maya smiled. "Every day." "How?" "Because Olivia believes mistakes deserve curiosity before criticism." The words stayed with him. In another classroom, Maya showed them a wall covered with thousands of handwritten cards. Every card answered one question. "When did you remember your color?" Some messages were only a sentence long. "When my foster mom hugged me. When my teacher believed me. When someone finally listened. When I realized broken didn't mean finished." Lily quietly wiped away tears. Maya noticed, but pretended not to. At the end of the tour, they returned to the entrance. "Thank you," Noah said. "I hope you meet her someday." Lily whispered, "I hope so too." After they left, Maya stood watching through the window. Something about the siblings seemed strangely familiar. She couldn't explain why. That same evening, Olivia returned unexpectedly early from Cleveland after a winter storm canceled the final workshop. She entered the center, carrying the blue canvas bag. Maya greeted her immediately. "You just missed 2 teenagers?" "Oh. They came asking for you." "What were their names?" "They didn't say." "What did they want?" "Just to thank you." Olivia smiled. "That's kind." They seemed emotional. Maybe the retreat meant more than they expected. Maya nodded slowly. There was something unusual. "What?" "I can't explain it." She laughed awkwardly. "They looked at you the way children look at someone they've been searching for." Olivia smiled gently. "I hope they come back." The following week, something much bigger happened. The National Creative Futures Foundation announced its largest awareness campaign in history. Instead of raising money, the campaign focused on encouraging communities to support children's mental health. Evelyn Carter presented the proposal during a board meeting. "We've spent years funding programs. Now it's time to change the conversation." A marketing director projected several design concepts. Most featured smiling children, colorful artwork, hopeful slogans. Finally, the last image appeared. A close-up photograph of Olivia holding the dented blue tin box. Behind her stood children of different ages, smiling naturally. Across the top appeared 6 familiar words: broken crayons, still color. The room became quiet. Evelyn turned toward Olivia. "What do you think?" Olivia studied the image. "I don't like seeing my face." Several board members laughed. "I'm serious. The children should be there." "They are. They're the focus." "No," she pointed gently. "I don't ever want this to become about me." Evelyn smiled. I expected you'd say that. She clicked the remote. A second version appeared. Olivia's face was smaller. The children occupied most of the image. The blue tin box remained centered. Better. Much better. Approved, Olivia nodded. If the children stay first? Within weeks, billboards began appearing across Ohio, then Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Pennsylvania. The campaign spread far beyond anyone's expectations. Teachers posted photographs online. Parents shared stories. Former students uploaded pictures beside the billboards explaining how the program had changed their lives. One photograph became especially popular, a teenage girl standing beneath the billboard holding a drawing she had created years earlier. The caption read, "She helped me find my color." The girl was Maya. News stations quickly picked up the story. Television interviews followed. Olivia accepted only one. The interviewer asked, "What does it feel like seeing your face on billboards across America?" Olivia laughed softly. "Honestly, I still notice the children first." Meanwhile, Ethan drove past one of the new billboards every morning on his commute. At first, he barely looked. Then one rainy Tuesday, traffic stopped beneath it. He found himself staring upward. Olivia smiled down from 40 feet above the highway. The old blue tin box rested in her hands. Around her stood children laughing together. Below the image appeared a quote, "No child should ever believe they're disposable." He gripped the steering wheel. Something inside him shifted. He suddenly remembered the afternoon years earlier when Olivia had rescued a broken crayon from the trash because Noah wanted to throw it away. He had laughed at her. "You'll really keep that," she had smiled. "Someone still needs it." At the time, he thought she was talking about the crayon. Now he understood she had never been talking about crayons. That evening, Ethan stopped in the garage again. The empty cardboard box still sat where the letters had been discovered. He stared at it for a long time, then quietly closed the garage door. Inside the house, Noah and Lily were discussing something he wasn't supposed to hear. "We should tell her." "I know. What if she doesn't want to see us?" Lily shook her head. "Did you read the letters?" "Everyone." "Then you already know the answer." Ethan leaned silently against the hallway wall. For the first time since the divorce, he realized there was nothing he could say that would repair what had been lost. Some things could only be faced honestly. And very soon, honesty would no longer be optional. The city's largest billboard campaign was about to celebrate its official launch in downtown Chicago. Olivia had reluctantly agreed to attend. So had dozens of children whose lives had been transformed by the program. News crews from across the country planned to cover the event. Neither Olivia nor Ethan realized they were both about to stand beneath the very billboard that had already begun changing all of their lives. The official launch of the National Awareness Campaign transformed a section of downtown Chicago into a celebration of hope. Television vans lined the streets before sunrise. Reporters rehearsed introductions while camera operators adjusted their equipment. Teachers arrived with students carrying handmade signs. Former foster children embraced counselors they had not seen in years. Volunteers wearing bright blue shirts greeted families at every corner. High above the crowd, the giant billboard overlooked the city. Olivia Jordan smiled gently while holding the old blue tin box. Around her stood children laughing beneath the words, "Broken crayons still color." No child should ever believe they're disposable. Olivia wished the cameras were pointed anywhere else. She stood behind the temporary stage, speaking quietly with Evelyn Carter. "I still think Maya should be giving today's speech." Evelyn laughed. "Maya already insisted it should be you." "She's wrong." "So are you." Nearby, Maya organized dozens of former students who had volunteered to share their stories. Some had become teachers, others were nurses, social workers, counselors. One young man now coached youth baseball. A little girl Olivia had once met in a hospital was beginning college the following month. Each of them carried a small, broken crayon attached to a blue ribbon, not as decoration, as a reminder. Across the plaza, Noah and Lily stood among the crowd. They had driven to Chicago before dawn after discovering the launch date online. Neither had told Ethan. They simply knew they had to be there. Lily clutched one of Olivia's old letters inside her jacket pocket. "I can't believe we're actually here." Noah looked toward the stage. "I just hope we get a chance to talk to her." Before the ceremony began, reporters interviewed several former participants. One microphone stopped in front of Maya. "What made this organization different?" She smiled. "Olivia never asked us what was wrong with us." "What did she ask?" "What happened to you?" And then she listened. The interview spread quickly across social media. People applauded. Some wiped away tears. Backstage, Olivia closed her eyes briefly. Rebecca Collins squeezed her shoulder. "Nervous?" "A little." "You've spoken to thousands of people." "I know." "This feels different." Rebecca smiled knowingly. "It should." At that same moment, Ethan pulled into a nearby parking garage. He had not planned to attend. But after seeing the morning news coverage, something inside him refused to let him stay away. For years, he had convinced himself the past was settled. The letters had shattered that illusion. He walked toward the crowd alone. No corporate suit, no business associates. Just a father carrying years of regret. The ceremony began with children singing. Then Evelyn stepped to the podium. She spoke about communities, teachers, families, volunteers. She deliberately spent very little time discussing the foundation itself. Finally, she smiled toward Olivia. "Some people spend their lives asking how much success they can achieve." She paused. "Others quietly ask how many lives they can help heal." She turned. "I'm honored to introduce someone who has answered that question every single day." The applause lasted nearly a full minute. Olivia walked slowly to the microphone. She looked across hundreds of faces, then instinctively searched for children. She always did. "I don't really like stages." The audience laughed warmly. "I prefer classrooms." Another wave of laughter. She held up the familiar blue tin box. "This old box has traveled farther than I ever expected. It has visited schools, hospitals, church basements, community centers. But it has never actually been about crayons." She paused. "It's about people. Every child who believed they were too broken. Every parent who thought they had failed. Every teacher who wondered whether kindness still mattered." She looked toward the children seated in the front rows. "This box reminds us that value isn't determined by appearance. It's revealed through purpose." Silence settled gently across the plaza. "When we stop throwing people away," she smiled, "amazing things happen." Thunderous applause followed. As she stepped away from the podium, dozens of former students approached one by one. Instead of giving speeches, they simply hugged her. Each embrace lasted only a few seconds. Each represented years of healing. Television cameras captured every moment. Standing near the back of the crowd, Ethan watched silently. He remembered laughing at the very same blue tin box years earlier. Now thousands of strangers applauded it. He whispered to himself, "I never understood." Nearby, Noah finally spotted Olivia leaving the stage. "There." Lily nodded. They started moving through the crowd. Several reporters blocked their path. Volunteers guided families in different directions. By the time they reached the stage entrance, Olivia had disappeared into the media tent. "I'm sorry," a volunteer explained. "Press interviews first." "When will she be finished?" "Probably an hour." The siblings looked at each other. "We'll wait." Inside the interview tent, one reporter asked the question Olivia always dreaded. "What inspired this organization?" She hesitated. There were many reasons. Could you tell us one? She smiled gently. I used to tell my own children that broken crayons still color. The room became quiet. I don't know whether they remember that. Her voice softened almost imperceptibly. But I hope life has been kind to them. Outside the tent, Noah froze. He had been walking toward the refreshments table. Instead, he found himself standing motionless. He had heard every word through the partially open entrance. Lily reached him moments later. What's wrong? He pointed silently toward the tent. She listened just long enough to hear Olivia answer another reporter. I've spent many years hoping they'll know they were loved every single day. Lily began crying before she realized it. Neither sibling entered the tent. They simply waited. Across the plaza, Ethan had heard the same answer. The weight of it settled heavily over him. For years he had convinced himself Olivia would eventually move on. Instead, she had carried hope without bitterness, love without recognition, patience without reward. For perhaps the first time in his adult life, Ethan saw himself honestly. Not as a successful executive, not as a provider, but as a man whose fear had stolen precious years from his own children. The interviews finally ended. Olivia stepped outside, looking relieved. She thanked volunteers while preparing to leave for another afternoon workshop. As she walked toward the parking area, she heard someone call softly behind her. Mom! The word stopped her instantly. She turned slowly. Several yards away stood Noah and Lily. Older, taller, nearly adults now. For one impossible moment, nobody moved. Olivia looked at their faces as though afraid they might disappear. Her blue canvas bag slipped gently from her shoulder onto the pavement. The old blue tin box remained safely inside. Tears filled her eyes before she spoke. Noah. Lily. Neither child answered immediately. They simply walked toward her. Every year of separation seemed to disappear with each step. Several people nearby noticed the reunion but quietly stepped back. Even the reporters lowered their cameras. Some moments deserved privacy. When Noah finally reached her, his voice shook. We found the letters. Olivia's entire expression changed. The letters... Lily nodded through tears. We read every one. Olivia covered her mouth. For years she had imagined this conversation. None of those imagined versions came close to reality. She whispered only 4 words. You got my letters. Noah shook his head gently. We found them. The meaning settled between them without another explanation. Olivia closed her eyes briefly. Not in anger, not even in shock, only in sorrow for all the years that had been lost. Then she opened her arms, and both of her children ran into them. For several long moments, the noise of downtown Chicago seemed to disappear. The applause, the traffic, the reporters. Everything faded beneath the sound of 3 people crying after years apart. Olivia held Noah and Lily as tightly as she could. Neither of them let go. She closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the feeling she had imagined through hundreds of unanswered letters. You've grown so much, she whispered. Lily laughed through tears. So have you. Olivia smiled. I hope that's true. Noah pulled back just enough to look at her. I'm sorry. Her expression softened immediately. For what? I believed. He stopped, unable to continue. I believed you stopped trying. Olivia gently cupped his face. You never have to apologize for believing what you were told. She kissed his forehead. I never stopped loving either of you. Lily reached into her jacket pocket and removed one carefully folded letter. I've been carrying this everywhere. Olivia recognized the butterfly drawing instantly. You kept it. I'll always keep it. She unfolded another paper. The anonymous note from the retreat. You wrote this too, Olivia smiled faintly. I didn't know it was you. You recognized my drawing. I recognized a heart that was trying very hard. Noah shook his head in amazement. You really didn't know? No. I only knew one young man needed someone to remind him that he already mattered. His eyes filled again. Rebecca and Evelyn quietly stood nearby, giving the family space. Several reporters lowered their cameras completely. No one wanted to interrupt. After a while, Noah spoke softly. Can we spend some time together? Olivia laughed through tears. I've been waiting years for you to ask. The three of them slipped away from the crowd through a side entrance. Maya quietly directed volunteers to continue the event. The celebration isn't stopping, she smiled. This is exactly what it celebrates. An hour later, the family sat in a small cafe overlooking the Chicago River. For a while, nobody talked. They simply looked at one another, trying to fill years with a single afternoon. Finally, Lily smiled. I remember your pancakes. Olivia laughed. They were terrible. No. They were shaped like dinosaurs. That wasn't on purpose. It made them better. The table erupted with gentle laughter. Small memories began returning one after another. Bedtime stories, rainy afternoons, painting rocks in the backyard, searching for butterflies. Every remembered detail stitched another piece back into their relationship. Eventually, Noah grew serious. We found hundreds of letters. Olivia nodded quietly. I know now. Did you ever think about stopping? She looked out the window towards the river. Many times. Why didn't you? She turned back toward him. Because loving someone isn't something you quit practicing. Silence settled over the table. Neither teenager could answer. Later that afternoon, Ethan arrived at the community center after learning from Rebecca that Olivia had already left with the children. Rebecca invited him inside. He hesitated at the entrance. His eyes immediately landed on the small wooden shelf, the dented blue tin box. He walked toward it slowly. It really survived all these years. Rebecca smiled. So did she. He nodded. I almost threw that box away once. I know. You knew. Olivia told me. He looked at the overflowing crayons. I never understood why she cared so much. Rebecca answered gently. Because she never confused damage with worth. Those words struck harder than any accusation. He lowered his head. I failed them. Rebecca remained quiet. I failed all three of them. You made choices. I did. And now, I don't know how to make them right. Rebecca looked at him carefully. You don't erase years. No. You acknowledge them. He nodded slowly. That evening, Noah sent Ethan a short message. We're having dinner with Mom. We'll be home later. Nothing else. No anger, no accusations, just honesty. Ethan stared at the phone for several minutes before replying. Take your time. Love you both. It was the first time he realized those words had to become actions instead of assumptions. The following morning, Olivia invited Noah and Lily to visit the original community center before they returned home. Children immediately surrounded her. Miss Olivia, look what I made. Can you see my drawing? She greeted every child by name. Noah watched in amazement. She remembers everyone. Maya smiled beside him. Most of them. Lily noticed a frightened little boy sitting alone in one corner. He refused to touch the art supplies. Olivia quietly walked over. She didn't ask him why he was upset. Instead, she opened the blue tin box. She chose the shortest orange crayon inside. Then she began drawing beside him without saying a word. After several minutes, the boy reached for another broken crayon. Slowly, carefully, he joined her. Noah whispered, "That's exactly what she did for us." Maya looked surprised. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "We just didn't know it." As the afternoon ended, the siblings helped clean classrooms. They stacked chairs, sorted crayons, wiped tables. Nothing extraordinary, just ordinary moments they had missed for too many years. Before leaving, Lily placed something inside the blue tin box. One small, broken purple crayon she had kept since elementary school. Olivia noticed. "You've had that all this time." "I found it in an old backpack." "You want to donate it?" Lily nodded. "I think another little girl might need it more." Olivia hugged her. "I think you're right." Meanwhile, Ethan sat alone in the family living room. The house felt unusually empty. He looked around at expensive furniture, large televisions, designer decorations. Then he remembered the tiny apartment Olivia had once described during the divorce. She had almost nothing. Yet somehow children laughed there. Here he had provided everything money could buy. Yet silence often filled every room. The realization humbled him. 2 days later, Noah asked his father if they could talk. They sat together on the back porch. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Ethan said, "I'm sorry." No elaborate explanation, no excuses, only 2 words. Noah looked at him. "I believe you." Ethan's eyes widened. "But that doesn't make everything okay." "I know. I need time. You deserve it." Another long silence. Then Noah reached into his backpack. He handed Ethan one of Olivia's letters. "You should read this." Ethan looked confused. "It's addressed to me." "No, it's addressed to me." "Then why?" "Because I think you need to know who she chose to be." After Noah left, Ethan opened the letter. Halfway through reading it, he stopped. Not because of anything Olivia wrote about him. She barely mentioned him at all. What broke him was what she never wrote. There was no bitterness, no revenge, no attempt to turn the children against their father. Only encouragement, only hope, only love. For the first time in years, Ethan cried without trying to hide it. Several weeks later, Olivia received a handwritten envelope. The return address surprised her. Ethan Jordan. Inside was a short note. "Olivia, I cannot return the years I took from you or from our children. I can't change the choices I made, but I can finally stop pretending they were justified. Thank you for never teaching Noah and Lily to hate me. I don't deserve that kindness, but I'm grateful for it. If rebuilding trust is ever possible, I will spend the rest of my life earning it. Ethan." Olivia folded the letter carefully. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply looked toward the blue tin box resting on its shelf. Some things could never be restored exactly as they had been. But broken did not always mean the story was over. Sometimes it meant a different chapter was finally ready to begin. 1 year later, the old warehouse on the south side of Columbus was no longer large enough. Children filled every classroom. Weekend workshops had waiting lists stretching for months. Teachers traveled from across the country to learn the broken crayon's still color approach. Instead of celebrating the organization's 10th anniversary with a gala, Olivia Jordan proposed something entirely different. "I'd like us to open another home." Evelyn Carter smiled. "What kind of home?" "A place where children can create, where families can heal, where nobody has to earn the right to belong." Rebecca Collins looked around the meeting room. "I think we already have that." Olivia shook her head gently. "We have a center." "I think it's time we build a home." Construction began 6 months later. The new building sat on donated land overlooking a small park outside Columbus. Warm brick walls replaced cold concrete. Large windows welcomed natural sunlight into every room. Gardens surrounded walking paths designed for quiet conversations. There were music rooms, art studios, reading corners, family counseling spaces, a community kitchen where volunteers cooked together every Saturday. Near the entrance stood a simple stone sign, "Broken Crayon House." Underneath in smaller letters, another message read, "Everyone has color here." On opening day, hundreds of families gathered outside, teachers, counselors, former students, volunteers. Children who had once entered the program frightened and withdrawn now returned as confident young adults. Maya Thompson stood beside Olivia wearing a badge that read Director of Family Programs. Years earlier, she had been the silent foster child who believed a broken purple crayon belonged in the trash. Now she supervised an entire team of counselors. She smiled toward Olivia. "You know..." "What?" "I still have my first drawing." Olivia laughed. "I was hoping you would. It's framed." "Mine too." "You kept it." "I've kept every reminder that hope grows." Nearby, Noah adjusted a display featuring children's artwork from across the country. After graduating high school, he had chosen to study psychology. His decision surprised almost everyone except Olivia. One afternoon he admitted why. "I spent years believing strength meant hiding emotions." He smiled. "I'd like to help boys learn something different." Lily volunteered beside him, arranging shelves in the reading room. She had begun studying elementary education. When people asked why, she always gave the same answer. "One teacher changed thousands of lives. They just happened to be my mom." The relationship between Olivia and the children had not erased the lost years. There were still difficult conversations, birthdays that had been missed, graduations they wished they had shared. Sometimes sadness surfaced unexpectedly, but instead of avoiding those moments, they learned to speak honestly. Healing Olivia often reminded them moved at the speed of trust. Ethan also changed. Not overnight, not perfectly. He attended counseling, apologized repeatedly without demanding forgiveness, showed up consistently. When Noah asked him to attend one of the organization's father-son workshops, Ethan accepted immediately. During a discussion circle, each father answered one question: "What have your children taught you?" When his turn came, Ethan looked toward Noah before speaking. "I used to believe success meant building impressive buildings." He paused. "My children taught me that the hardest thing to build is trust." Silence filled the room. "And they also taught me that rebuilding it takes longer than breaking it." Noah quietly placed a hand on his father's shoulder. Nothing more needed to be said. As the afternoon sun warmed the courtyard of Broken Crayon House, families wandered through the new building. Children raced between easels. Parents painted alongside them. Grandparents laughed while helping toddlers mix colors. Nobody hurried. Nobody worried about making perfect art. Near the entrance, a little boy approached the old wooden shelf. The dented blue tin box still rested there, exactly where Olivia insisted it would always remain. The child frowned. "This box is too full." Olivia knelt beside him. "What do you think we should do?" He looked around. "We need a bigger box." She smiled. "Maybe. But why do we keep this little one?" The boy studied it carefully. "Because it started everything." She nodded. "Exactly." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny broken green crayon. "I brought this. You want to keep it?" "No. I think someone else needs it." He carefully dropped it into the overflowing tin. The small crayon disappeared among hundreds of others. Olivia smiled. "Thank you." That afternoon, a television crew asked to interview her again. The reporter stood beside the entrance. "After all these years, what achievement makes you proudest?" Olivia looked across the courtyard. Children laughed while parents painted together. Maya taught a volunteer how to comfort an anxious child. Noah helped a teenager organize baseball equipment for an after-school program. Lily read a picture book to 3 little girls sitting cross-legged on the floor. Ethan quietly repaired a loose bench with another volunteer. Nobody noticed the cameras anymore. Olivia smiled. I don't think it's the buildings. The awards. The billboards. She looked toward the blue tin box. It's this. The reporter followed her gaze. The crayons. The people. She pointed gently. Those children will grow up believing kindness is normal. Then they'll pass it to someone else. That's how healing survives. The reporter lowered the microphone. For several seconds, even she forgot she was working. As evening approached, everyone gathered outside, beneath strings of warm lights. Instead of fireworks, the celebration ended with something much simpler. Each family received one broken crayon. Children looked puzzled. Parents smiled knowingly. Olivia stood before them holding the original blue tin box. This little crayon isn't broken because it failed. It simply has more stories behind it. She looked around the crowd. So do we. One by one, children held their crayons high. Hundreds of small colors reflected the setting sun. For a brief moment, the courtyard looked like a field of tiny lights. Olivia took a deep breath. Years ago, she had walked away from the courthouse carrying almost nothing, a canvas bag, an old dented tin box, and hope that refused to disappear. She had lost her home, her marriage, years with her children, yet she had never stopped believing that broken things could still create beauty. Looking across the courtyard now, she realized something. The greatest masterpiece had never been the drawings on classroom walls. It had been the people. Every frightened child who learned to smile again. Every parent who chose patience over anger. Every teacher who decided to listen before judging. Every volunteer who gave time without expecting recognition. Every family that discovered love could continue growing after heartbreak. Noah stepped beside her. You were right, she smiled. About what? He held up the tiny broken green crayon the little boy had donated earlier. Broken crayons still color. Lily joined them. So do broken families. Olivia wrapped an arm around each of her children. Sometimes, she whispered, they color the most beautiful pictures of all. The old blue tin box remained on its shelf as families slowly walked home beneath the evening sky. It was still dented, still scratched, still far from perfect. And because of that, every child who entered Broken Crayon House understood the lesson before anyone spoke a single word. Broken did not mean worthless. Broken did not mean forgotten. Broken did not mean the end. Sometimes broken was simply where a new story began. Here is a heartfelt closing message for the video. Every person carries invisible scars. Some are left by rejection, some by loss, and some by the silence of those who should have loved us most. But this story reminds us of a powerful truth. Being broken does not mean being worthless. Like a broken crayon that can still create beautiful colors, our hardest experiences can become the source of compassion, strength, and hope for someone else. Forgiveness does not erase the past, and healing does not happen overnight, but every act of kindness plants a seed that may one day change a life in ways we can never imagine. Olivia never stopped loving even when no one seemed to notice. She chose grace over bitterness, hope over despair, and service over revenge. In the end, it wasn't wealth success or recognition that restored her family. It was the quiet, unwavering power of unconditional love. May this story remind you to never give up on the people you love, to never underestimate the impact of a kind heart, and to remember that even the smallest act of compassion can echo across generations. Sometimes the most beautiful masterpieces are not painted on canvas, they are written in the lives we touch. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd truly love to hear what part moved you the most, or what lesson you'll carry with you. And if you enjoy inspiring stories about hope, resilience, and the extraordinary power of kindness, Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next heartfelt story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.